Hi, welcome back to how to write a platformer game in Java. In this video, we'll talk about processing. So what is processing? Processing is a software sketchbook that allows visual artists, programmers to create animation and art very easily with very simple Java code. You can download processing for free at processing.org. If you never used processing before, it's very easy and you can learn it as we go in the next set of videos. But you're welcome to also look at some tutorials online. There's a lot of tutorials, a lot of references that are very good. The API is very simple. You can do animation super easy, as you see in a second. And so let me give you a basic overview of processing. So a program is actually very simple in processing. You only need two methods to make a program work. You need a setup method and a draw method. Setup method is similar to a constructor. It allows you to initialize your variables. And the draw method it's like the main method, but it loops infinitely 60 times a second to create animation. And so this is what it looks like. Just voice setup. Processing is very simple, so just ignore. It doesn't need. You don't need to write public and all that. And so again, voice setup and voice draw. You can write any game, Mario, even Street Fighter, right? All within these two methods if you want. I mean, it's not probably best program in practice, but this is the only two methods you need. So let's kind of talk in detail about how this works. So typically when you write a program, you want to have your global variables declare on top of the program. So this would be like a sketch or a program. And then setup is actually called automatically to initialize the variables. So we declare the variables here, we haven't initialized them yet. And setup is called automatically to initialize the variables. And so you don't have to call it, it's called itself. And then so this thing runs exactly once to initialize your variables. And it's also helpful if you want to restart your game. You can recall setup and then it will just reset everything to the initial values, and then you can restart your game. And then draw is also called automatically, but it's called 60 times a second. And so each iteration of the draw method is a frame where objects and images are drawn and updated, and then as you cycle through these frames, then you have that illusion of animation. So let's do a simple example. So here's a working program. If I create, say, two variables, int x comma y, we are declaring the variables x and y. I haven't initialized them yet, and if I want to initialize them, I initialize them in setup. And so in setup, I say x is 5, y is 10. So notice again, right? I don't have to call setup explicitly. When I run my code, it'll run this line, and then it automatically goes inside setup. It'll run this line and make x be 5, y is 10, and then it exits, and then it automatically goes into the draw method. So again, all this is very simple so that we can just write code quickly and easily. So draw is going to modify and update your variables or redraw them. And so again, after it exit the setup method, it goes into draw. It add 1 to x, so that means x is now 6, and then it prints out x, which is 6, and then notice this is also simple syntax for print line. There's no system.out. You can also do system.out, but processing allows you to do it easily with the print line right here, like this. So x is 6. After this line, it actually automatically goes back into draw again, and now x is 7. You print out 7. X is 8. You print out 8. This loops until you stop the program, and it runs 60 times a second, and that's essentially how every processing program works. And so if you understand that setup, then you're basically good. And this is going to help us very quickly and easily bring in animation and do a quick game. Okay, so let me actually show you how to do this in practice. So here's processing website. Okay, so let me exit the slides and now kind of show you some basic code to get us to get some animation on the screen. So here's processing that I just opened. I'm gonna copy and paste that template. So let me create a variable. So actually, I'm gonna save this first and show you that there's a way that processing likes to organize its files. So I'm gonna save this on the desktop, and I'll call this platform. Just I guess first program. I'll save it, and then it will create a folder called first program. So the folder is called first program, and notice here the name of the sketchbook is also first program, and so I'm gonna open this and show you that inside this folder there's a .pde or a processing file called first program also. So first program is the name of the file, as well as first program has to be the name of the folder. So this is all done automatically, and these two names has to match, or else this doesn't work. So we just got to do that. And then I'm gonna actually take this image. There's a tank image here. I'm gonna put that image inside of the folder. So now I have my file and also an image. But processing, the convention is to create a folder called data and put all images, audio inside of data. Okay, so that's the setup. You have a folder, and then the data folder, which the images, and then your processing file. Okay, so let's see how we can use that image. I'm gonna declare, this is where we declare global variables. So there's a class called pImage, and I'll call this img. So I just declare my variable img as a pImage, and this is not initialized yet, so I initialize it in setup. So again, setup is called automatically. So in setup, this is where we initialize our variables, but one of the things we want to initialize is this dimension of our screen. So there's a method called size, and if I specify the width of my window, 800 pixels, and then the height of my window, 600 pixels, then that's the size of my window. And then here I'm going to initialize my image to be, so img is equal to, I'm going to load the image, so I call load image. So again, I'm doing this as we go, so you can learn this as you go. Everything is actually really, really simple, and I'll post this code so you can look at it and run it again, play around with it. Okay, so here's load image. I'm gonna so it's in the folder called data, so I say data, this is a string, and then I'll say the name of the file is tank.png. So there's it. I loaded that image inside this variable. Okay, so that's it. That's the initializing. And then now I want to draw the background. I'll make it a white background. So this is just a grayscale. 0 is black, 255 is white. You can also do RGB. How much red, how much green, how much blue. For example, this would be all red, no green and blue. So this is a red color. But to make it simple, I'll make it a white screen. And then I want to draw the image. So there's a method called image, and I'll just put in the img. I want to draw this image, and I want to draw it at a certain location. Let's put it at, say, 100. The x coordinates is 100. The y coordinates is, say, 300. So just with just a few lines of code, I'm going to run this, and I'll see that on the screen is my tank. That's it. This is only very, very simple, very easy to load an image into my program. Now, this thing's not doing anything. It's just all it does is that it just draw the image over and over again at the same location. And so, you know, this is looping infinitely, quickly. We don't see any animation because we're drawing it at the same location every time. So I want to create some more variables to kind of move it. So I'm going to create a variable, a float, called centerx. Now, in Java, double is the default decimal type, but in processing, because of performance issue, the default type for a decimal number is a float, which is basically just half of the memory of a double. So just so that's all. So float is the same thing as double in Java. I'm going to create also a variable called center y to represent the center x and center y of my image, and I'm going to initialize it here. So okay, again, I'll put it here at a random place. So again, setup is where I initialize all my variables. So I just initialize the position of my image, and then I put it here. I want to draw it at that position. So why do I need these variables? Well, I need them because now I can actually change a variable, and then it'll redraw it at a new location. So for example, if I were to take the center x and add 5 to it, what does that do? Well, let's go to the logic. Again, so this is the looping here. I draw the white background, I draw the image at a certain location, and then I update the position so that now is 5 pixels to the right. And when I loop back into the draw the next time, background will clear my screen from the previous, and then it redraw it, but now this image is now moved 5 pixels to the right. And so as it's looping through this, my image is going to move to the right 5 pixels per frame, and it does so 60 times a second. And notice if I run this now, I see animation, very easy. There's my tank going across 5 pixel per frame. Again, you see how easy it is to do animation with processing and work with images. By the way, turns out that this data thing here, you don't actually, if you take out data, will still work. Processing makes it simple, but again, good programming practice. We want to properly reference every path, every relative path explicitly, so that is clear. Okay, so that's basically just a quick intro to processing, and then we'll now, one thing I want to say before we end is that this has a bunch of variables, some data, right? And then it looks like this is changing the data, so this is like a method or a behavior. And so we have here a bunch of variables floating around, and maybe like some behavior here that we have. What we like to do is to combine them into a class, right? And that's the point of object-oriented programming, is to take data variables and behaviors or methods, and then combine them into a class so that we can encapsulate it and then abstract it away. And so, so that's the next. In the next video, we will talk about how to do that. How to create a class called a sprite class, and the sprite class will represent essentially a character on the screen that is denoted by an image, and then our sprite class will be the basis class for our character and every object that moves on the screen, etc. And so that'll be the next video. Okay, thanks for watching.